Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the OPT Network. This morning, our guest is from Neblett, Beard and Arsenault. Neblett, Beard and Arsenault has been serving not only Central Louisiana, but serving around the country since 1982. And when we think about a firm of that size, we just think, personal injury, and we think big cases. And yes, that is true, but there's so much more. And this morning, we're talking about the other things that they do. We're talking about workers' compensation. Our guest this morning is Ted Roberts. He has been with the firm for some almost 2 decades. He's a native Alexandrian, and he joins us this morning to talk about workers' compensation and what we all need to know. Ted, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We were saying before the show, you're absolutely welcome, and we're happy to have you this morning. We were saying before the show, it is posted in every workplace, but nobody ever really thinks about workers' compensation unless and until you have to have it. So let's start by talking about what it is.
Okay. Well, workers' comp is insurance that any employer has to carry on their employees. It covers 2 different things. It covers medical treatment for your injury, and it covers wages if you're unable to work.
Okay.
It's very simple. It's a simple insurance that employees are required to carry. Some employees don't. They can be fined if they don't carry it. But it's supposed to get the injured employee back to work.
Okay.
Is the main goal of it.
And so is it to protect the company as well as the employer?
Well, it doesn't protect the company. It's supposed to help the employee because you can't sue your company when you get injured.
Okay.
It's just their insurance. It's kind of like an automobile insurance that you have, if you get in an accident, the automobile insurance takes over, workers' comp takes over once you get injured.
Okay.
See?
So let's talk about those people right now that are listening and watching that maybe have been hurt on their job. What's the first thing that should happen when you get hurt on the job?
You gotta report it.
Gotta report it.
You gotta report it.
Do you find that a lot of people don't report?
All the time. All the time. You might have a small injury and say, this is not a big deal.
Right.
I can work through this.
Or you don't feel hurt at that moment.
Exactly. And people don't want to report it because they don't want to rock the boat. Mm-hmm. They don't want their employer's insurance to go up. Things like that. They get scared. If they hear stories about it reporting and their employers are like, it's no big deal.
Right. And so what do you say if you go to your boss, you've been hurt, and you really feel like it's no big deal, but you say to them, I had this accident or this situation and I need to report it, and they say, it's no big deal. We you look fine, and do you feel fine? We're not going to report it. What do you say to that employer?
Well, it's hard to say.
Because it's uncomfortable.
It's very uncomfortable to try to push the issue if they're gonna be that way about it. But you just run into so many troubles if you don't report it and you don't get something done, because if it goes down the line, then the insurance companies looks at it when they finally get to it and say, well, it's been a long time. What have you been doing?
Right.
So it's really
making
hard.
a record, really.
It is. It is making a record, and if your employer won't make a record, if you get injured, you need to make a record. Okay. You have to.
Okay. So you make a record of it, either through your employee or personally or both. And then after that happens and you find that you're unable to go back to work, then what?
I would try to go to the doctor on your own if you're not able to through your employer.
Okay.
Okay. Just to check yourself out and to, go to your personal physician to see if there's something wrong. And if there is, you really need to go back and tell them and say, look, we have to report, we have to put this under your insurance. Mm-hmm.
So across the board, if you get hurt on your job, the first thing you should do, after making the report, you should go see your family physician?
I would try to. if your employer won't let you go.
Okay.
When you go see your family physician and you say it's a work injury, they're going to
feel some sort of way. Huh?
Well, they're going to.
Do they handle you a little bit less favorably when you say, because oftentimes when you go to the doctor, you're asked that question, is this workers' comp?
Yeah, well, they have to put it in, under a separate insurance. When you go to a doctor's office and you get into insurance, you've got Medicare, Medicaid, you've got Blue Cross, you've got workers' comp, you've got all these separate insurances that the doctor's office has to go through. And when they get into workers' comp, they have to get approval for the treatment and everything like that, and and some doctors don't even take it because it's so much trouble to go through workers' comp, and the insurance is just the process that you have to go through just to get a simple procedure done. Doctors just don't like to do it, and they don't even take it. So. You have to try, though.
Do you find that across the board, when you tell the doctor that this is a workman's compensation case, that they are fair, or do they look at it like this person is trying to gain something?
No, absolutely. Absolutely fair, okay. I guess, in answer to your question. There's nothing to gain. Okay. You don't want to be hurt at work. You don't, I've never seen when anybody tries to beat the system in workers' comp, you don't even want to be in the system. There's nothing to beat, you see? Okay. So I wouldn't see why. I mean, well, I'm sure there's some out there, right. But it just doesn't make sense when they do that.
Okay. So after you go through the process of reporting and you see your family doctor and you find that there is a problem, at what point do you want to go and see an attorney? At what point?
Well, at any time you can call our firm at Neblett, Beard, and Arsenault and ask questions.
What are the questions that people should be asking? What's the most important thing? Because if you're hurt on your job and you don't feel like you're really that hurt, but you know that something has changed.
Right.
And you don't necessarily want to create a problem where you may not have your job any longer. So what's the most important thing that people need to understand about making sure that their rights are preserved?
Well, they just have to know that they have insurance that covers them, which is workers' comp, and they have a right to that. And they get scared of it. They get scared.
Why? Why do you think?
Well, they get scared because they don't want to rock the boat with their employer. They don't want their employer's insurance to go up. Even if they've been there 20, 30 years, they want to be the good employee that doesn't complain, that is okay, that can work through anything.
Right.
And sometimes when they do that, that's when it goes south and it becomes a big problem, especially if they're really hurt.
And so for those people that find that they're really hurt and they are unable to work, we're going to take a break here, but when we come back, we're going to speak to those people and talk about how you sustain your family, your livelihood through the process. Stay on point. We're back with more right after this. Welcome back, everybody, to the OPT Network. Our guest this morning is attorney Ted Roberts. He has been with the firm of Neblett, Beard, and Arsenault for almost 2 decades, and he exclusively handles workers' compensation, although the firm does a lot of things. Personal injury is what they're probably best known for, but here is an unknown fact that they are helping people navigate all of the maze that is workers' compensation. And Ted, you've been doing this. You have really committed your career to the expertise of helping people with workers' compensation. Why was that? Why were you so passionate about it?
Well, I kind of fell into it, but it just happened to be that I was out of town a lot working with the firm, and one of the partners called me and said, "Ted, do you want to do workers' comp and come back?" And at the same time, my wife actually called me, and she was pregnant with my first child, and so it was perfect timing.
Right.
So I did fall into it, but I fell into something that I am passionate about because I like to help people, and I like to help people basically get through workers' comp and get away from workers' comp.
Very good.
And get on with their lives. Because workers' comp is not something that you want to stay on.
Right.
It's not something that you want to be on in the first place. But it happens. But you want to be able to get back to work and be able to do something and get out of that system.
Okay. So it's important to note for people who are either have been hurt on their job or are on workers' compensation right now is that when they call you, they can come in and talk to you at absolutely no cost initially.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I'd be happy to talk to anybody.
And so what is that conversation, what is it like?
Well, it's almost a, and I'm trying to find the right word for it. I'm almost giving them information that they don't want to know.
Why so?
Well, because workers' comp is a system that's created for every injured worker, and it treats everybody the same way. But unfortunately, people with higher incomes or their income is significantly decreased.
Once you get hurt on the job.
Once you get hurt on the job.
And tell us why it's significantly decreased.
Well, you are, under the statute, you get 2/3 of your weekly wages. But of course, that's capped off at a maximum that changes every year. And that maximum sometimes doesn't allow people to pay their bills, and they're wondering why this is happening. But it's the system created by the legislature to help any injured worker, and it helps everybody the same way. Everybody
the same way, no matter what your earning wage was initially.
Correct.
And so that's a very small, even though 2/3 of your income sounds like a lot,
right,
but it really doesn't tally up to that.
Not at all. Not at all. And people just don't know what to do.
Right.
Because everybody that comes to see me wants to work. And they've worked all their lives.
Right.
And they just...
And they wouldn't think of going after their company.
Not at all. Not at all. And they don't want to. Most of them don't want to.
But they're in between a rock and a hard place.
Correct.
Because they can't sustain their livelihood.
Right. Or go to work.
You
know, they're on the couch all day because they can't go to work. They're not able to get up, and they just want to go to work. And I want to be able to help them get through the process to get back to work, to get back to doing something. Because, you know, that's when they come in, that's what they really want to do. They're tired of being in the process. They're tired of not being able to work, and I hopefully can get them there.
Absolutely, and you do that through the process of helping them to navigate, as I said earlier, what seems like a maze of information that if you are not learned about that information, you really don't know what to do.
Oh, unless you've been through the process, you have no clue. No
Absolutely.
clue.
And one of the other things that you do, Ted, is you do a lot of pro bono work.
I do. I'm on the pro bono board. I have been.
Who knew there was a pro bono board?
Oh yeah, and every city around Louisiana and every state, and hopefully every state has a pro bono board that there's a director and board members that help people that can't afford legal help. And I've been on that board for over 10 years. I can't even remember the last.
Just legal help in any area?
Correct. Correct. And I also do Child in Need of Care, which is part of the pro bono board, where we represent children that have been taken away from their parents, because the children have to be represented too. So I've done that too.
Sure. So you're spending a good bit of a portion of your time really giving back.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so being that you've been doing this for 19 years, you've seen a lot of cases and you've helped a lot of people. I want you to tell people, if people don't make the call initially, if they don't call Ted Roberts, Attorney Ted Roberts at Neblett, Bearden, Arsenault, and they have waited and they think there's really no hope, what do you say to those people this morning?
Call me. Absolutely. Call me. Be happy to answer any questions. I can't say that it's never too late, but I can help them, give them information that they need, and because they need to know.
Absolutely. And what we're finding is that most people don't know what their rights are. And when you don't know what your rights are, do you essentially sign your rights away without?
Not at all. No, there's nothing that you can sign your workers' comp rights away. You can't. There's no legal way you can sign your workers' comp rights away.
No matter how long it's been.
Well, now you've got a year from the date of your injury.
Okay. Good point.
Yeah, okay. From the date of your injury, you have a year to do something. And if they're not paying for your medical treatment, if they're not doing anything, you might have to file suit against the insurance company, and you do have a year from that date of the injury. And thank you for asking that, because that's very important. Because if you go past that year, you've lost all your rights.
That's very important.
Right.
And oftentimes a company will say, we're not going to go any further, especially for those people who don't want to sue and they say, I just want to let my company handle it. And then there's a point where the doctor may say you're ready to go back to work, but you don't feel like you're ready to go back to work.
Right. Well, you do have the right to choose your own doctor under workers' comp.
Okay.
So hopefully the doctor you've chosen is working with you and he knows what you can and can't do. But the insurance company can also choose a doctor too. So you have to kind of fight with them, their doctor and your doctor.
Right, and there goes the dichotomy of their doctor and your doctor.
Exactly.
And that's why you really need that support.
Sure. We can definitely.
It's a tricky process for a lot of people. Before we've got to let you go, Ted, tell people how they can connect with you and how they can start to understand this arduous process that maybe they're going through right now.
You can just call me at any time. Call Neblett, Bearden, Arsenault. Get on the website at nbalawfirm.com. You can type in on there where you don't have to talk to anybody, but I'd be happy to talk to anybody. Meet with them. I like to sit down face to face with everybody and just kind of go through any of their questions, or I'd be happy to talk on the phone too. So and 24/7.
Absolutely. All of the information is on the screen. The initial consultation is absolutely no cost, and then through that process, is it like every other case where the percentage of the attorney is gotten after?
Correct. It's all contingency fee contract.
So if you don't get anything,
that's correct.
They owe you nothing.
That's correct.
He's been doing it for 19 years with excellence. He cares about the less fortunate and he cares about you. So if you're finding that you are not able to navigate this thing called workers' compensation, call Ted Roberts at Neblett, Bearden, Arsenault. Ted, thank you for your service and thank you for the work that you do.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Attorney Ted Roberts has been our guest. He's an attorney at Neblett, Bearden, Arsenault. Stay on point. We're back right after this.